Okay, everyone, it's my pleasure to call to order the Tiburon Town Council meeting for March 5th. Lee, could you please take the roll?
Councilmember Fredericks.
Here.
Councilmember Nick Farr.
Present.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
Vice Mayor Wellner is absent and Mayor Thier.
I'm here. So we are going to first start with any public comment for matters not on the agenda. Is there anyone that would like to speak?
I'll just address the public quickly with instructions. If you're calling in on Zoom and would like to make a comment during this meeting, please use the raise hand feature of Zoom, which will indicate to me you would like to make a comment. You can find the raise hand button on your webinar controls bar on the bottom of your Zoom window or smartphone screen. If you're calling and using a phone, you can dial *9 to raise your hand. And
Hey. Yes, please.
My name's Jenna. I'm a resident of Tiburon, and I just wanted to say I hope at your next meeting to see the Parks and Rec Master Plan on the agenda. I was really hoping that you talk about that tonight, but I understand there's a lot of candidates here. So anyhow, there's a group of us who are really excited to see what you all do next. So just wanted to put that on the record. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And please send your input in to the council.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so now we're going to go to,
I do have somebody online,
oh, perfect.
so I will recognize Tim.
Tim, you can go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I'm a concerned resident of my mom over there, Cecilia Way. I had a question of the council members. There's 5 of them, right? A couple of them are remote. My name is Tim Ben Carpenter. Why is it so hard to build in Tiburon? That's the question. With the permits and the zoning.
Someone has to explain. He's not going to get.
Just in case the caller didn't get the explanations for open time, this is not when we discuss even things off the agenda, but thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, I did have to. I want to adjust the agenda too. So, do we do that now or after? I don't know.
I'm sorry. I don't think we heard what you said.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Now we can. Could you repeat what you said?
Yeah, the closed session about last agenda talked about there was a closed session about litigation against the salt like. Why was it a closed session for the pending lawsuit against I think it was the Saltwater Commission or something like that.
So during public comment, we are not allowed to answer questions because it's not on the agenda. And it would be a violation of the Brown Act. So what I'm going to ask you to do is if you go to the Town of Tiburon website, there's actually an email address for our town manager, and you can send these questions in and they can be answered. That would.
Well, I've been a resident for like 2 days, so I just got here. So my mom's been here since July. So yeah, I understand that, but why can't they address it right now? I mean,
So
it sounds like you guys are being sued by by some kind of, why was it closed session? I mean, that's a simple question. And that's on the agenda tonight, I believe.
yeah, so you're welcome to keep speaking. We're not allowed to respond because other people might want to talk about the subject, bring it up, right? So
Sure.
if it's not on the agenda and we discuss it, they didn't get notice and they don't get to participate. So I think the best way is for you to send these questions into the town manager or the town council, and then we can respond.
I tried to yesterday. I like to stop by the town council square. And I spoke to them as asking questions, but they weren't available. So okay, I'll just be muted and I'll raise my hand when I have a question. Right?
Yeah, you're not being muted, and we appreciate your questions. Please send them in writing to our town manager, and we'll get you an answer. Okay?
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that has public comment, either in the room or online?
Seeing none online.
Okay, great. Do you want to explain the process for the interviews, or shall I?
It's
Me too.
it's
Okay.
up to you.
Okay, so there's been a lot of questions here tonight about the interviews, so I'll tell everybody how we're going to do it. We're going to interview everyone in order on the agenda, just to make it simple, right? I don't know how the order was chosen. It means nothing. That's just how we're doing it. So after that, you are welcome to stay and listen to whether you're appointed or not, or you can leave. And if you have kids coming home from college, you should definitely leave. So, and just from the outset, I want to say that, you know, we talk about this a lot, and you'll hear it from other council members tonight, that we always have an embarrassment of riches. We have a lot of people that want to be on the same commission. So whether you're appointed or not appointed, we want to encourage you to look to other commissions as well, and not to give up, and to please stay involved and participate with the town. We really appreciate you coming tonight to interview. So I'm going to start with Phoebe Holscher, Design Review Board. So welcome. Welcome, Phoebe.
Thank you.
We usually start off by asking why you want to be on the Design Review Board.
Okay, great. That's a great question. I have been living here since 1994, and I've been an architect here with my husband since 1998. We moved our office into the old Corinthian pharmacy. So we've done a lot of work here. I've presented to the Design Review Board countless times, and I always said that when my youngest went to college, I would apply to be on the board. And she's a freshman, and I was reminded of that a few months ago. So, and I was told that there was a seat becoming vacant. So I am here to be of service.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. And what are a few things you'd like to do on the DRB?
Oh, I think that what I would like to do is bring an objective viewpoint to the DRB. I cherish this town. I want to protect the nature of the town, but I also would like to see kind of objective and fair design review. I think that we've got a housing issue in California, and we need to respond to that. And I would certainly offer up my, support and opinions on how to achieve that. So.
Thank you. And do we have more questions from the council members? Councilmember Fredericks.
So here's a chance to be creative and yes, bring your creativity to us.
Okay.
Given the state regulations that limit discretionary reviews of ADUs, what's in the pocket of an architect with experience that might limit impacts on neighbors?
Mm,
That's a thinkum.
yeah. The state, as you know, the state mandate, is people are allowed to build their ADUs. And so is the question kind of how to be creative in a design review board toward being more restrictive? Is that what you're asking?
Well, discretionary reviews are no longer allowed under certain circumstances,
Yeah,
but what
yeah.
kinds of tools does an architect have that might fit within the limits of the state regulations that would reduce the impacts of the ADU
Okay,
on
well,
neighbors?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think as an architect, if I have a client that approaches me that wants to add an ADU to their property, we are going to work hard to fit. Again, we live here, we're neighbors. We want to create new buildings and massing that fits within the site and the neighborhood and does not plunk down and block somebody's view. But, you know, as far as the state regulations, I can't speak to that. But certainly that is always a goal of ours, because we don't want to be on the receiving end of that as well. But
So you'll just take out your architect tools and do whatever you can do if there's a issue.
to see how to resolve that in the most kind of meaningful and contextually sensitive way. Yes. I mean, for me personally, that's what I would do.
Do we have other questions from the council?
Yeah. Why DRB, not maybe planning or something else like that?
Oh, because I have so much experience on or not on DRB in this seat. So it's familiar to me. It's comfortable. I'm an architect. It makes sense to me to be applying for a DRB role instead of something else. It's what I'm the most familiar with.
Follow-up is, what are maybe one or two or three things that you would love to see in terms of improvements, or it could be process, could be, anything.
Yeah. One thing that I would love to see is having been in this seat and representing clients, I have experienced a few times presenting to the DRB well within the limits of the zoning, not asking for anything exceptional, and being sent away to do a little nip and tuck on the volumes. And that is really expensive for clients. And I don't know that members understand that. By the time the architect redraws all the drawings, because all the elevations, the story pole plans, everything needs to change. And then the contractor has to go out there and change all the story poles. That is expensive. And I understand and fully support when it's necessary, and I've learned a lot from that process. And I always come away saying, you know what, that was better. I'm glad they required us to make that change. But a few times, it seems like a needless change just for the sake of sending someone away to come back again. And I would love to see that streamlined. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then how will you handle conflicts of interest? Because you're practicing architect.
Yeah. I mean, I would look for guidance on that from the, staff and, how to do that. I work with my husband. Our daughter also is with us. So, I mean, if I have to step down and not present projects, I can do that. It would be a little weird and awkward to go from there over to here and sit down. So probably that would happen. If there are projects that we have presented, I'm assuming that I would recuse myself. But again, I don't know. I would take
Okay,
instruction.
okay, thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, you're very
Yes.
welcome. Thanks
Have
for the
fun.
opportunity.
You know,
to-
thank you for
apply.
interviewing.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Can I ask a question of staff?
Yes, you may.
So this is a question for staff. We have had architects who practice in town on our boards before, haven't we? This is not new. Yeah, thank you.
Step down.
Okay,
Yeah,
we're not taking comments from the audience. So we are now going to Maureen Broderick, Belvedere Tiburon Disaster Advisory Council. Is she here?
Madam Mayor,
Fine.
not online. I don't believe she or David Thompson are here. I'm happy to check in with them if you'd like to just move on.
Perfect. So we are now to Andrew Thompson. Now you can talk.
It's David Thompson.
Oh.
No,
that's
David's
her
not
husband.
here
Okay.
either. That's the husband.
Husband, yeah.
Okay,
If I'm coughing, it's just really bad allergies. Don't worry.
Okay, so I want to take a moment to welcome you, Andrew. And if you could tell us a little bit about why you'd like to be on Parks, Open Space and Trails Commission.
Sure. Well, Parks, Open Space and Trails Commission has always been my favorite. I literally grew up with the very first Parks and Open Space Commission, which my father was on, and hiking the hills as they formulated the plan for the first open space purchased by a town in California history, which was our Mid-Ridge Open Space. So I just grew up in that environment of a lot of the families who were creating Tiburon. I just love being out in the hills and being able to preserve our land and be able to create and maintain the and fabulous environment that I had growing up here. And we've done a fabulous job of it. We all have, all through the years, which has been just great. So I think that there's a lot of more trails that I think would benefit this as us greatly. I've always wanted to be able to connect Seaforth and other parts of Paradise straight over so kids can walk directly to school, some other things like that. There's some trail maintenance things that I think we could address. I'd love to lead a group cleaning up some of the areas so it's nicer. But mainly, we've been through a campaign and all that. Just want you to know, the campaign is over. I'm here to help you with whatever agenda you've got, sincerely. And I know we've got the big master plan. And I think that this is an ambitious project and it's going to take some really good coalition building. And I think my past experience and all the years in the council and everything, I'm going to be able to talk to some of the older generation people that are going to probably be resistant. And I think I can help get them to get back in touch with their history, that they were young parents with little kids as well, and break down some of those barriers and bring people together and get them together. And then they're going to come up with some really fun things together, just like we did on South of the Knoll Park, which I was a major part of making happen. So that brings me such joy when I'm able to bring various groups like that together and pull it off. And it just builds community. It's just so fun. So that's what I want to do. I think I bring some skills that are really going to help, but I think the younger families bring some skills too. And so I'm going to propose something that I think you should really consider. This Parks and Open Space has been 7-member committee longer than it's been a 5-member committee. We consolidated it from 7 to 5 in like early 2000 because we had, I think, I don't exactly, but we had 2 members that just really were at odds with each other. So we kind of like disbanded it and reformulated it as 5. And so given that we're going to try to make the master plan, Parks Master Plan, really happen, I think a greater number just gives us more of a force of talented people to build greater coalitions. You can always move back to 5 later, whatever, but I think this might be time to do that, where we get the skill sets and people, a greater number of skill sets and people to pull this off, hopefully really well. So that's what I'd like to propose.
Do we have questions for Andrew? Councilmember Fredericks, please go ahead.
Yeah, so you certainly, and we have served together, are in tune with the history, especially the history of access to trails and paths. And I'm sure you've looked at our wonderful post work, both in terms of the ad hoc committee that looked at them and the result in the Parks and Open Space. Which of the access to trails, maybe, that we addressed decades ago have become easier to make possible for people to access without the conflicts previous attempts generated?
Okay, it's a little cryptic. I'm not sure exactly what you're saying.
I'm saying that some of the accesses to our trails and parks, to our trails, for instance, up on the ridge, the access is difficult. They've been difficult for a long time. They've had particular problems. Has that changed for any of the accesses that you know?
Well, it hasn't really changed. Okay, one of the big ones, of course, is Hacienda. So one of the things I was really proud of was getting the missing link from the top of Gilmartin up over the top to connect to Old St. Hilary's open space. That's part of the, yeah, you guys have all heard about it, but we got that done and nobody sued us. I got everybody to really be happy with that. And I'm sorry about Hacienda. Hacienda was owned by the Wayne family. Wayne was on the first Parks and Open Space with my father. He was a huge supporter. And it was never, that was like, okay, let's work on the hard stuff first. That's done, and he passed away before we got the paperwork done. And who knew that his kids were going to be totally against it? It just got caught off guard there. But I think I've got some ideas that I'm not going to talk about here, but I think there's some ways that we can be able to get that back open, even without Raven's application. And that's something I would love to finish, and in a very cooperative without ever getting into a legal conflict.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah.
Hey, do we have any more questions for Andrew? Yes.
Oh, sorry to put you on the spot here, but like, what do you think, other than Hacienda, is the most controversial thing that might spring out of the Parks Master Plan that you could help with?
Well, this is what I was saying, that you've got to defuse fear very early on. So if we're, let's say, talking about the ponds, where, out there in McKegney, you've really got to jump out and start meeting with everybody that's going to be most impacted first and bring them into the fold before they're get into that reactive mode to something they've read about. That's why we need more members. We've got to reach out and get those people involved, make sure that they know that they're going to be part of the process, and then they don't get reactive and start fighting you. It takes more energy. It takes a lot more work, which is why I think we need to build a bigger team.
Thank you. Any more questions?
I think similar question that I asked the last candidate. What are three, improvements or areas where you would improve on what Post is doing right now?
What areas that we could improve on it? Frankly, I think that we can improve it by doing more in the field, having more outings, engaging more people in communities out in outings with the Parks and Open Space. And you don't have to do big agendized things. What you do is you just adjourn from the meeting to the hike. You don't run into Brown Act problems that way. And you bring people in and you teach them the history. I would love to lead hikes like that. And, granted, we got to manage the numbers through the sensitive parts and the sensitive areas of people's homes and all that. But the more we can get people to understand their history, their parks, how these things came about, that's community building. That's what brings them together. And then you're bringing different people from different parts together, and they're making new friends. That's community building. And I think that would be really fun. You guys would love doing it too.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Andrew. So now we are moving on to Mike Gavari. Welcome, Mike.
Hi, thank you.
If you could just tell us a little bit about why you want to be on Post.
Yeah, absolutely. So I first kind of discovered Tiburon 20 years ago through the parks, biking here, hiking here, and just saw the natural beauty. And I was just struck with it. I said, well, I didn't even live in the state at the time, even though I grew up in the Bay Area. I was then living in Boston and I was visiting. I said, wow, I got to move here one day. This place is incredible. And so I feel very fortunate, like all of us here, to live both surrounded with so much natural beauty, but also some man-made, intentional, kind of built activities for all the, someone mentioned there's young families here, there's senior citizens, there's, people of all ages and different kind of setups. And they have a range of activities they enjoy. And I think this is one of the best places to participate in all of those activities. So I'm really excited to kind of bring maybe a fresh perspective and some new energy to the table and do a lot. You know, one thing is when the Parks Master Plan was being presented, you know, you guys were obviously here, I was here, and there was an incredible amount of energy in the room, right? It got a lot of young parents, and they had a very long list of things they want to get done. Now, we all know that you can't get that entire list of things done, and different people are going to, you know, have their projects they're most excited about. Some people are going to disagree with some things, and there's so much that made it into the plan, which is pretty incredible. And now it's a time to execute, right? Like, how do you actually get things done? And so that's what I've done my whole career. I'm a good get things done person. I've done, you know, business development and making things happen, taking something that's maybe amorphous or a laundry list or a wish list and actually trying to help drive those things across. So I think that's, you know, a big part of the opportunity as well here that I'm very excited about.
Great, thank you. Do we have some questions?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Frederiss.
Well, just because, and I apologize if this is a kindergarten question.
Oh, please.
But just because you're new to small town government, let me ask you what your understanding of this commission's role in decision-making is.
Yeah, it's a great question. As I understand it, and please, I don't know if you're able to give me feedback in real time here on it too, but as I understand it, it's an advisory role. You know, so when I talked about execution and implementing, it's a balance, right? Because there's going to be whatever the commission is kind of enabled to do, and we can obviously do community and grassroots effort, but ultimately, it's the town council that's the decision-making body on anything material, certainly, you know, anything budget, and, you know, any of the town funds, and any of the larger decisions. So I think our, you know, like the master plan, it's like, hey, okay, we've done this planning, we're presenting it, like, what should we do now? Okay, now we want to take these steps or, you know, disperse these funds. This is what we recommend. So more of an advising and recommending role. But I still think there's a place for people who are action-oriented to help try to get things done in that advisory role.
Thank you so much.
Just what, this is an 8th grade question.
Okay.
Okay.
We're moving up fast.
We're moving up. So, you know, there's a part of the discussion is what goes where. And it's not just about Mill Valley Refuse, it's about where our recreational activities would go. So name a characteristic or two of a site that you would look at when recommending a recreation activity there.
So sorry, so you're saying specifically in the sanitation, like Blackie's pasture location, or you're
No, I
saying?
was just making a very awkward joke about what goes where, which is part of the Mill Valley Refuse site
Okay,
to help you triage your trash. This will be about triaging where you, how a site is used. Where
see.
you place a recreation
Yeah.
activity.
and you were gonna add something? Okay.
No, I was just gonna say, it's like, where would you put something and how would you
Yeah.
make that decision, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, I think the Parks Plan also did a good job of laying out, I think, a standard framework for this, right? That you've got a continuum. I think there's 5 levels of, you know, the most built environments, right? Where you have highly structured all the way to just straight up open space, right? Level 5. And I enjoy all those, you know, as a parent with a young family, but also a nature lover who loves hiking. I really enjoy the protected open spaces where we don't try to create a lot of built environments. So where you have nature having its own draw, we're so fortunate with beautiful views here. You're seeing the ocean, or you're seeing the bay, I mean, and you're seeing, you know, beautiful trails. Then the focus is on maybe what was touched on earlier, like how do you get access to those places? How do you do trail cleanup? How do you do minimal human intervention to still make it enjoyable? But then sometimes you want to build out a little bit more, right? So where you have some interaction with nature, you're still enjoying the environment. I call McKegney Field the most beautiful soccer field in the world, right? Like you go there and you're like, wow, this is pretty incredible. Here's this nice sports field, but then look at this view, right? And the playground, you know, around the bend there is pretty nice too. So there's those kinds of places, and then there's just straight up neighborhood. You know, Bel Air has its neighborhood parks, right? And then people want a bathroom, right? And then if the residents in an area say, hey, can you just help me get some basic thing here? We'll see if it's feasible or not, and we'll make a recommendation. Does that kind of get to the question? I mean,
That does answer
yeah,
my
there's
question.
noise issues, there's all kinds of other, if you're going to have to build anything. So you have to be very sensitive. There's obviously views are a very sensitive thing in this town. So there are a lot of constituents to consider, but luckily we've done a lot of the planning.
And basically, the question shows that you read and thought about the rec plan. Thank you.
I think you passed the test. Okay. do we
What,
have-
what grade did I get to after 8th grade? Did I?
You're bumped to college.
Oh, wow. All right.
That was fast. Okay, do we have other questions? Do you have questions? Okay.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to interview. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming. Okay, we are moving on to Nicole Voss. Welcome, Nicole.
Hi, good evening, Town Council. My name is Nicole Voss. I'm a Tiburon resident. That's how I've begun every public comment session that I've been at in Town Council over the past year or so in post-commission meetings. Similarly, I first came to Tiburon over 17 years ago for a regatta. I race sailboats, and it was one of the places that was really nice on land. And with like the Belvedere Riviera is what it's called in the sailing community, where you could access nice breeze out there, but come back and strip all the layers of all the extra gear. So I moved to Tiburon 3 years ago with our Labradoodle, my family's Labradoodle. So we've gone on all the hikes. We love the trails. We love that it's very dog friendly. Most people say hello to my dog before my kids. I have 2 young sons. One I did bring to a meeting when he was a newborn earlier this year. And so, was there a question?
Just to introduce yourself, and if you could say why you want to be on the commission, that would be great. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, thank you. So, as I've been a very active participant throughout the process of the Parks and Rec Master Plan, I've participated in focus groups, through town council meetings, petitions. I'd like to see it through. So that's why I'm really interested. I have pretty good experience in the tech space and working in the financial and operations side, getting people together for a large tech company. And so I'm currently not working at the moment with my kids. So I spend a lot of time at the parks, go to a lot of playgrounds, a lot of trails. And so now I think I have the time to really invest in the community. And that's why I'm interested in the post commission.
Do we have questions?
Sure.
Okay, Councilmember Fredericks.
First, I would like to congratulate you and remind you that as a mother, you are not in the category of not working.
Oh, thank you.
And you have very young children, so you must look at our recreational and parks facilities from that lens. Do you have any particular comments to make on that?
Yes, I spend a lot of time at playgrounds. I don't have a lot of I spend a lot of time at the Belvedere playground. I go to the south of Knoll, but it's a drive. It's a drive for me, and then it's a walk down that long path. I would like to see improvements there. Some of the neighborhood parks, it's not something I regularly attend, but I do have friends and neighbors of friends that are interested in slowly, minorly upgrading some of those amenities. It's not something like a destination. I'm not trying to drive there to go to a neighborhood park. I'm interested in that, but it is really nice. And you see it all over Europe in some of the small towns where it's also a community builder to have a little playground or a little play set while parents are maybe sipping lattes next door to them. That's something I feel like Tiburon's missing at the moment and could really bring together multi-generational users, especially like grandparents, parents, things like that.
Thank you. Do we have more questions?
Chris, do you see anything we can do in the downtown area that would benefit, like add to that, like those absences that you're talking about?
Yes, I'm most interested in the downtown area specifically. I'm on this side of the peninsula, and I know we want to keep as many cars off of Tiburon Boulevard as possible. So I'm interested in what we can do with Tether Park. That was originally brought up early on in the Parks and Rec plan. I know focus has shifted to maybe more of the community parks, but I think Tether Park would be a good one, especially with the new development coming downtown, to maybe even work with some of the developers and include opportunities for rec access there.
Thank you so much. Do we have any more questions? Okay, thank you so much for coming and for applying. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, so now I am going to Jonathan Taylor. Okay, great. Jonathan, if you could
Hello.
tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to be on the Post Commission.
Yes, absolutely. Well, good evening. Very chilly evening out there. My name's Jonathan. Am born and raised in Tiburon, actually. And I'm very fortunate to have that privilege. And in my life, I was born here in Tiburon and then had the opportunity to live abroad in Australia, Japan, Singapore, and am now a first-time homeowner here in Tiburon. With my newborn son, Byron, who is 6 months old. So some of you may have seen me with the stroller. I'm up and down Blackie's pasture every day and on Vistazo West, just near Chuck. And it's really incredible to sort of reflect on how important Tiburon has been to me and how I have grown in this place, which is, has such majesty and beauty. And I really see myself as somebody who brings a lot of fresh ideas. And I do have to say that I've also read the master plan, and that is an incredible piece of work. Hard to put a staple through. I tried to do that today. But I really appreciate actually the thoroughness of that, the thought that's gone into that. And all of the ideas tonight, by the way, and the amount of energy, you guys really are spoiled for choice, because there's a lot of great ideas. And I think that really as a youth, actually, who grew up in Tiburon, I know that something that we as parents think about, and I am now as a parent thinking and reflecting on my time as a youth here in Tiburon, I think about what type of place I want Tiburon to be for my son. And also I think about what I got up to as a teenager here in Tiburon. And I want places for the youth of Tiburon to be able to be active in, to want to be in. And I think that really there's a huge opportunity that I think we're missing that actually wasn't in the parks plan, about how we can engage actually our youth. And when I'm talking about youth, I'm talking about the whole range, but specifically in my mind, I'm also thinking about people at Del Mar or even high schoolers. We think about how can we raise awareness of our town of Tiburon and the unique beauty that so many people have touched on that we all know. I also think about social media, and I think about, can we give kids an opportunity to have responsibility, for example, to showcase the parks that we have and the spaces that so many people can enjoy. And that could be an opportunity for a high schooler to also have that formal experience, working with a group like ourselves, and in the process, maybe something to put on their college application and meet new people in the community. I think that there are so many opportunities for us to think creatively, and many of these things don't cost a lot of money. That's the other thing. I understand that. I think the biggest challenge is, where do we find the money for a lot of the ambitious projects that we have? And I have a few ideas about that, but also about how we can do things just to engage the community. Opportunities like, for example, Elephant Rock. I walk past that with the stroller all the time, and I'm thinking, why can't we showcase more of the opportunity to even go fishing, off of Elephant Rock? And I've seen, some young people there, and I want people off of zooming e-bikes, and I want people actually engaging with the beautiful nature that we have.
Thank you. That's great. Anybody have questions?
Sure.
Councilmember Fredericks.
Yeah, so I didn't quite understand what you were talking about when you were talking about giving kids opportunities.
Yeah.
Opportunities to do what, and what would the opportunity be?
Yeah. So a couple ideas. Well, first of all, I think that there are opportunities to acquaint our youth with actually more of the parks that they have access to.
By,
So what I mean by that is putting on, for example, activities or things for people to show up to. For example, that could be, could we have people that are, even indigenous or native to this land do walking tours with youth to explain how, this land has evolved over time, and actually maybe reacquaint them also with some of that history. So bringing people together, or for example, I mentioned fishing, right? I don't think if you asked many middle schoolers or high schoolers about where is Elephant Rock, right? I don't think a lot of them would even know that. So what I would love to propose and explore is how can we actually drive and raise awareness of that by maybe it's, through the ARC or through the ranch, raising awareness of, an activity where we learn how to go fishing, or it could be engaging with the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts here in Tiburon and actually showcasing some of the parts of the town that they may not know about and maybe how they can maintain trails as well as something that they could do. And one of the other points that I made was about giving youth opportunity and responsibility within the context of the open spaces that we have. So for example, I mentioned, could we appoint a social media coordinator for the open parks and give that opportunity to somebody here in Tiburon, a young person, to explore their creativity within the context of the beautiful spaces that we have and showcase to bring more people to our beautiful town to enjoy not only nature, but also the businesses that we have.
So when you talk about social media, you mean have them post these information and pictures on social media?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, there's a range of things you can do on social media, but some of that might include showcasing some of the beautiful views, or if we had, for example, that fishing idea that I had, which I'm not married to, but I think could work. That could be one way to get the word out to more people to enjoy the space.
Okay, do we have more questions, anyone?
Just quickly.
Yeah, please.
You talked that's sort of like programming and exposure. Do you have any specific amenities that you'd like to see us cater to this middle school to high school
Yeah.
age kids that you think we should have?
Absolutely. And I have ideas for a range, especially also as a new parent. Low hanging fruit. I was here at the library, again, trying to put a staple through the Parks and Rec plan. Very hard to do. I didn't actually realize how many pages it was, so I apologize to the trees. But I would love as a youth, actually, one of the things that we used to do would be that we would ride bike. I used to have to ride my bike up and down Lyford. Believe it or not, I had to take my bike, schlep it up Lyford every day, and my mom called that character building. But I did have to go to the, but I did have to go to the library to do my homework after school, and I'm going to be honest, we didn't spend as much time doing our homework as we should have, and we usually rode our bikes just sort of around town. What I would love to see is actually, we have this beautiful Zielinski Park here, but it's quite barren. It's just a piece of grass, and I love some of the activations that we've had recently with community and the first responders, but this is a perfect opportunity for not only a playground for a younger, for as a first-time parent. I also love the comment about not having a play structure for Tiburon residents. We have to sort of rely on our cousins over in Belvedere for their play structure, which I love, which, by the way, was my dream to be able to bring my son to that park because it is so beautiful. So I'm not knocking the park, but I do think that we have an opportunity here at Zielinski Park for not only a play structure there, but I know that there's been conversations of things like a pump track for, bikes. And I think that around this space, and I also loved the suggestion about the park whose name always sort of escapes me, but it's the one the one further over where the tennis courts are. That
Tether.
one has so much opportunity. I live very close to there. Very rarely do I see people actually playing tennis there. And I also noticed the huge parking lot today that sits there with no cars in it, and I know that that's also a potential site for a swimming pool, which I know costs a lot of money. So, but hey, that's a great spot. Thank you.
Okay, now we are moving on to the Diversity Inclusion Task Force. I would like to welcome up Lena Godfrey.
Hello, council members.
Welcome,
Thank you.
Lena. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself and why you'd like to be on the Diversity Inclusion Task Force.
I think you guys all know me a little bit by now, at least, but I'm Lena Godfrey. I am interested in the Diversity and Inclusion Task Force. I've actually been kind of following it since its inception, and interested in how it's developed and how it continues to do more and more. And I admire what they're doing. And I think, you know, communities need more of these kinds of things. So first of all, like, good on Tiburon for taking note and forming it and sticking with it. Because I know it's sometimes just like another thing that we have to watch out for, but and it's another thing on the plate of the council members, which is already a lot. So I admire what they do and what they set out to do. And really, I'd like to be a part of that. I think now it's sort of like much better formed than it was in the early days when I first looked at it, where it was still just like kind of addressing a problem and no one was really sure what shape it would take or how it would impact the community, how we were going to solve some of the most pressing issues. So really, I'm just interested in being involved. And then, as you guys know, I sort of have a special spot of advocacy, and I think a gap in what's been going on with the Diversity Inclusion Task Force is sort of the area of disability and accessibility and inclusion from that perspective. I can speak to multiple perspectives of diversity and inclusion as a resident for almost 10 years now, a lot younger than a lot of the people here, having a family a little bit earlier than people typically do here, a little bit browner than typically the residents are here, although we're starting to see that change. And then now I'm the mom of a disabled child. And so I'm really seeing the world through really sometimes a tough lens of how this world is not built for people with any kind of like difference in their mobility. And then, you know, disability goes so much further than just mobility. It transcends many different, you know, aspects of society and human body and person and soul and all that. So I'm kind of looking at it from that angle, from those two angles. But really what I'd hope to bring to the task force is sort of this perspective that seems like it's been missing thus far. And understanding also that the task force is young. So there's room and time for it to expand.
Thank you so much. Do we have questions? No? Okay, I'll ask a question. Could you talk a little bit about your experience with your children and trying to play at the playgrounds that we currently have?
Yeah, I think I've said this before and I'll say it again. I can't bring my 4 children to play anywhere in this community. And this is our home community, of course, but actually I can't bring them anywhere to play together in Marin unless I go all the way to Novato. There's a new playground there that is much more inclusive. I have successfully rallied the Board of Supervisors of Marin, and we will be getting a very state-of-the-art inclusive playground at McGinnis Park. It's going to be about 5 years, I think, but it's like completely happening. It's, you know, well into fundraising phases, and we're working on design and things like that, and I'm very involved in that. So that is encouraging, but that's still, you know, 30 minutes away or so. It would be lovely, you know, to be able to walk down the street or to go pick up groceries and take my kids somewhere. I'm all around town, like doing circles in my white car that everybody recognizes me in all the time. And I would love to have a resource that I felt like I could bring my kids to. And I will acknowledge, you know, the inaccessibility of the world and our built environment is not something you truly appreciate until you're really living it and you're bumping into those curbs every moment. You can really try to cover accessibility, both for invisible and visible disabilities, and do your best and have the best intentions. But until you have sort of like a lived perspective, I think it's really hard to actually get it right. And I will acknowledge that I myself am not disabled, but right now, as my daughter's young, I'm living life through her eyes and through the eyes of many other kids for whom I do advocacy work for. And so that's the best I can bring to the table. But I will say it's better than somebody who's not even disability adjacent trying to make those assumptions or, you know, put themselves in those shoes. The Novato Park is Pioneer Park. So it's like up on that last exit, the Atherton exit. Yeah. And so, yes, I can't bring my kids to play in any place here. Typically, we go to the library as one of the community resources because that is a place I can bring them.
Thank you. Any more questions?
I don't have a question. I'd like to make a comment, though. The sentence that you said, that to know accessibility, you need to live it to know it. Should be a T-shirt.
I almost wore my T-shirt that said "Teach your children about inclusion," but then my kid got it all messy, so I changed. Yeah, thank you. And I will say I don't want to exclude the fact that we also have a pretty big and significant aging population here, and people moving through age brackets. And disability is a natural part of life and existence, right? So we come in and out of it. Some people move into it permanently. Some people are born with it. There's all different phases of it, but it's something we should be considering as this like little utopian Northern California place. We can do better. We can do it. I think we're capable of it. We have already kind of a focus on being better, doing better. And I think this is just, a gap that we owe it to ourselves and everybody else that lives here now and will live here in the future to fill.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Anything else? Okay, thank you so much for applying. Okay, I did want to check in to see if Maureen Broderick or David Thompson have arrived or will arrive or are online.
I have not heard from either of them, unfortunately.
Okay,
Second.
then we will move on
Move on.
and we will see if they show up later. So now I'd like to move to the consent calendar. I'd like to move to the consent calendar. Is there any public comment on the consent calendar?
Seeing none.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Second.
Okay, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fredericks, Councilmember Nick Farr,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wellner is absent and Mayor Thier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we are now moving to agenda item number one. Agenda item number one. Is there a staff report?
Yes, Mayor and council members, this is your annual appointments item. As you know, all of our board and commission members are appointed to staggered terms. And most of them are 4-year terms. There is a bit of two exceptions on your docket this year, but they are all staggered, and for the most part, they all expire on February 28th of every year. So every spring, we do a big announcement and we accept applicants for all of the seats, regardless of the incumbents. And I reach out to all of the incumbents, ask if they'd like another term. We accept new applicants as well. And you interviewed all of our new applicants for all of our open seats tonight. So tonight before you is we've got 6 boards that need appointments to, and you've interviewed almost all of the new applicants. So you'll be considering making appointments to the Building Code Appeals Board, the Design Review Board, the Disaster Advisory Council, the Diversity Inclusion Task Force, the Post Commission, and the Planning Commission. There's a table in your staff report that outlines all of your options. And I can bring it up actually, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, that would be great. If you could put it up.
Just put it here. I think, is that big enough?
Oh.
I think that.
Oh.
Is that big enough for you all to see? Or should we bring it up on the bigger screen?
I think that's okay. Is that okay for everybody?
There we go.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that report. I'm now going to take any public comment on the report, on the item. This is public comment on action item A1. Consider reappointment or new appointments to fill vacancies on various boards and commissions. Is there any public comment online?
I am. One moment. Seeing none.
Is there any public comment in the room here? Anyone that would like to speak? Okay, great. So we are going to start the appointment process. Before I do that, is there anyone on the council who?
Yeah, I was going to ask, so we have 2, or I guess 3 obvious vacancies, right? We have 1 on post and we have 2 on the DITF. Those seem pretty straightforward. Should, in terms of what order we do things in.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'd like to ask Madam Mayor if we could just sort of attack each one individually. As
Yes,
opposed to
yes,
trying to-
that is what.
I want to be efficient, but I also want to.
Yes, we were going to do them each individually. So I think, what I would like to do is start with Diversity Inclusion Task Force. We have 3 people that are asking for reappointment. That is Howie Awash, Nushin Latour, and Tina Pikeday. And then we have one new applicant, Lena Godfrey. I would like to make a motion that we support all 4 and make these 4 appointments.
I'll second that.
Okay. Could we please have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Fredericks,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickvar,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wellner is absent, and Mayor Thier.
Yes, and I want to say welcome, Lena. Your experience and your background will be very amazing and critical for the Diversity Inclusion Task Force. So thank you. Thank you for stepping forward. Okay, now the Building Code Appeals Board. That is incumbent Don Schneer has requested to be reappointed. There is no one asking to be appointed. I'd like to move that we reappoint the incumbent Don Schneer.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote?
Councilmember Fredericks,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickvar,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wellner is absent, and Mayor Thier.
Yes. Moving to the Planning Commission, again, we have one incumbent, Daniel Amir, who has requested reappointment. There is no person running for that seat. I would like to move that we appoint Daniel Amir.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Fredericks,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickvar,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wellner is absent, Mayor Mayor Thier.
Yes. Going now to Disaster Advisory Council, we have 2 appointments to make. We have 2 incumbents. We have 2 new applicants that did not show up tonight. Are they online? Just a final check.
No.
Okay, I do hope they apply for something else, but I would make a motion that we reappoint Adam Brolin and Colin Crawford to the Disaster Advisory Council.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call vote?
Councilmember Fredericks,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickvar,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wellner is absent, and Mayor Thier.
Okay, great. Now moving on
Is that a
to,
yes?
that was a yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Yes, that's a yes. Moving on now to Parks, Open Space and Trails Commission. We have, again, this embarrassment of riches, as always. And I'd like to give the council time to discuss this, or is there a motion?
I would like to make a motion to appoint Mike Gaffrey.
I'll second that. And before, with the second, I'd like to say thank you to all of you. It was very cool to see how differently you presented yourselves in a really compelling way, which actually makes Mr. Thompson's idea a little bit more interesting in that, like, we get all these different perspectives. I think last time we had 9 appointees, so I think something we should look into, but for this meeting, I appreciate Mr. Ghaffari's persistence and thoughtfulness. He's been here before and he's stayed engaged, so I fully support him. Sorry, that was a long second.
Okay, are there more comments? Yeah, I will just say that everyone who presented did a great job, and I do hope that if someone does not get it tonight, that you will apply for another commission and stay involved. Okay.
And just to
Councilmember
add to that,
Frederick.
stay involved in the Parks and Rec process because every one of you offered something different to make the process work.
Okay, so any more comments? Okay, we can have a vote, a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Fredericks,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickvar,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wellner is absent, and Mayor Thier.
Yes. Okay, so now we are moving to.
Are we done?
No, we have one more.
Oh,
DRB.
Moving
Oh.
on to Design Review Board, we have one incumbent who has requested reappointment, Jim Malott, and we have a new applicant, Phoebe Holscher.
I would like to nominate Phoebe Holscher.
I'll second that.
Okay, do we have any discussion or comments?
I just thought she was super impressive and she'd be great on the board.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so we'll have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Fredericks,
Yes?
Councilmember Nick Farr,
yes.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wellner is absent, and Mayor Thier.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And so that brings us now to the end of our agenda. We'll be going into closed session. Is there any public comment on the closed session item number 1?
Council.
I don't think we do. Yeah. I don't think we have any reports tonight.
No,
I did
just
not
call
receive
it.
any.
Yeah, can I just say,
Yeah,
I
please.
know I mentioned this last time, but just to reiterate, there is the Mar West group. So I hope that on a near-term future agenda, we can talk about utility undergrounding policy.
I would also like for us to talk about undergrounding policy.
Yes, definitely. Can you connect with me? Okay, great. So any town manager report?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, great. So now I'm going to move to the second item on the closed session and ask if there's any public comment on the town manager review.
Seeing none.
Okay, seeing none, we are going to adjourn into closed session. Again, thank you to everyone who came and who applied for a commission.
Hey, congrats. Thanks. Yeah, well, thanks, guys. Yeah. Hopefully we can collaborate. I would love to.
She may not have remembered that we had to adjourn.
Or do you think you're stuck in the elevator?
I'll double check.
She's not stuck in that elevator. No one gets stuck in that elevator. That's
fine.
not happened.
First time for everything.
So I would like to report that we have nothing to report. We went into closed session and the meeting is now adjourned.